Check 1 2. All right, I think we're live.
Hey.
All right, let's make sure it works. What's going on, everybody? My name is Justin Thomas. Welcome to Top Shelf Fandom, and I am here with my esteemed guest, AU Packmule. Say hello to everybody, AU.
Hello, everybody, and thanks for inviting me, Justin. Hope that we're going to have some fun talking about robots.
The robots, I love it.
A robot show.
Robot. What is your tagline, Hax?
Let's overthink an HBO show about robots. Oh yeah.
Perfect segue. Say hello, Hax.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? HaxDogma here.
And Johnny, take us away with the tech specs, our behavioral tech.
Yes, sir. Johnny Bragg from House of the Conqueror. At me with your questions. Westworld, Season 3, Episode 5. The title, Genre. The 25th installment in this series. 62 minutes long. It was written by Kerri Krause and Jonathan Nolan. Directed by Anna Forster. The title means a category of artistic composition, as in music or literature, characterized by similarities in form, style, or otherwise. Yes, everybody in the chat, how is it going tonight? And I'm going to give a few shout outs really quick. I got cut off last week, so let's do it. Philip, what is going on? Welcome. Louise Brooks, how is it going? Lady Leaf, Underhill, OTDA, Bunny. And yes, Shade of the Evening, them tornadoes are out. I'm waiting on one to hit me now, so maybe you will get it live. Michelle, how is it going? AU Packmule's here. I've heard of this guy before. The Episode Club. So, Justin, back to you.
Yeah, like, okay.
And that was just a smooth segue.
You know,
right?
the Don Tony
Perfect.
Teflon, but the real Don, and I love myself some Tony. I'm developing a project with him as we speak. But the Don is AU. AU is the guy that connected me with everybody that I know. I think a lot of big name, I'm talking people like, not me, big name YouTubers will attest to this. AU, Packmule, the Don, the Contisari, put it together. Tell everybody what
Way
you thought
too
about
much
it.
credit.
Yeah, well,
Way too
it'll
much
go
credit.
down from here.
Yeah, I love me some YouTube. So anytime I can put together some friends like Johnny and everybody that's been on this channel, and it's just a pleasure of mine. So what do I think of the episode? Is that the question?
Mm-hmm. How do you feel overall?
I thought it was great. I thought it was so out of the box from our normal that I really enjoyed it. It wasn't so much that I enjoyed the beast mode, because I did enjoy me some beast mode. But I also thought that they were able to give us little bits of information throughout the story instead of it being one big reveal.
Mm-hmm.
And so I enjoyed the Serac being real. I enjoyed the fact that Dolores is able to give away her, 1/5 of her army, because that part of the job is done, and we're going to move on to another part. It was really great.
Absolutely. We see the advantageous aspect of cloning yourself, that you are more willing to maybe be a martyr because there is duplicates. So very interesting episode. I'm a little bit on the edge on it. I'm a little bit walking the line here, people. I had to get ready for the stream. I'm running a new computer, so I won't lie, I was a little bit distracted, but at the same time I felt a little bit disappointed. But HaxDogma, give us your insight.
That was a good episode. I thought it was fine. It was a cool episode. Get the origin story of Serac and Rehoboam, and that's really, what I've been after. Love what they've done with this dynamic of him and his brother, stopping.
Run through it for us, if you could, please.
What do you mean with the
Serac's? We get the origin story, because that is important. I think that's the most vital piece of information, other than the one we'll leave for later.
Yeah, I mean, just this idea that him and his brother developed the system together. Got outside help with Liam Dempsey Senior, and everything goes south. But there's also this mechanic of, manipulating the strings to be in your favor, and then like morally gray because he acknowledges that it shouldn't happen, but then tries to save his brother. I thought it was great. I thought it was great origin story.
Kind of
the
what
whole
we talked
thing.
about in the pre-show about the macro view is cool, but on a micro level, it's a little bit, problematic, right?
Of utilitarianism.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, utilitarianism. Like as soon as you affect the moral rights of any one person, that's where it's wrong, right? In the grand scale of moral,
Once you
ethical
look
debate.
down on that trolley and you're like, oh shit, I'm running over these people.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, I agree. Like as I said, I don't think that it was out of the blue that we were going to see him come at this with a ethical approach in mind, meaning he thought it was the best and he wants to stop bad things from happening. It is an interesting connection with the bicameral mind that the cancer patients were the kind of the change, the catalyst for change as far as end of life situations before chemotherapy. That is what you see heavily within the theory of bicameral mind. It is not something that is, to be believed in any type of a finite way within the theory of consciousness. But in the book, I think they're definitely sticking within that. They model the show after the bicameral mind as far as the model of consciousness goes. And we see after the radiation and the explosion in Paris, a changing point. And so they're kind of keeping connected with that. I think it's just a little side note. It's not really like a big plot point, but they're using the bicameral mind. I mean, they've screamed it a bunch of times. Now I'm screaming it a bunch of times because I'm reading it. So it's just little connections like that are fun. So it's like, these patients after that were exhibiting different behaviors and they took note of it. AU, what did you take away from the origin story of Serac? Do you think it fits? Do you think it adds to our story in any way? What's your take?
Well, the part where the brothers are using their hand on top of the flowers or the grass, I thought that was really reaching back to the part where Maeve always does that in her origin story. I thought that was cinematic, if nothing else, and I really like that part. As far as the brothers, we often thought that maybe Ford and Serac were possible brothers, because they both have that same story, and I'm glad that they're not. So this was really cool.
Oh yes. So
yeah,
glad.
it was definitely a moment where we needed to see that. I don't know that he's real, but he's definitely got a story.
Yeah, and he's existing within the world to an extent. We're not going to rule out the simulation in all fairness, because we have a simulation, empathist on the panel. So we'll let him plead his piece here. But
Not
yeah,
accurately representing my beliefs there.
no, what I'm saying is there's no proof that what you've said so far, as far as Maeve being in a simulation, it's actually nothing for this episode has proven you wrong whatsoever. I'm going to give you that.
The entire show could be in a simulation. Your life, my life could be a simulation.
Damn right it could. But it does give us a example of him existing in the real world and him using that technology to protect himself, right? Serac. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
definitely.
Yeah, that's all. And that's just common sense right there. So we're dealing with a deterministic world, and we're dealing with a situation in which it's like, okay, so how much do people deserve to know? Do you deserve to know everything? Do you find it to be advantageous if everybody knew what was their projected plight in life? You know what I mean? This deals with a lot of existential crises right here. This is what the show is all about. I feel that half of this show really dealt with what we were talking about in the pre-show, the use of the drug genre. Genre is, it's a story. Books are doors. Books open up a door to another world. So we get to see, and they played with this in the preview trailers, the teasers, even before we had this series, of the funny rom-com version of Caleb and Dolores and all that, and how things can change according to music or theme or the way they're cut. And life can be like that for anybody that's ever partied or ever had any sort of experience that's kind of, considered to be out of mind, out of body. Situations can seem quite different to you than they do to the normal populace around you. You see Caleb looking behind him on the escalator because he is balls deep and some blue pillin'. So
he's rolling.
Yes, he is. Yes, thank you. I didn't want to. Yeah, I thought balls deep in blue pillin' was a better way to put that. But it wasn't. You're right. He was rolling. So yeah, no, we get to see that, and I think it's a commentary on how we view the artificial beings and how we view them as not significant or not meaningful, whatever, because of this or that, but how we can be altered ourselves. So I think that the commentary on drug use and the change of perception is very valid, and I thought that was one of the main points of this episode. We get a lot out of that. I think it was a fun experience, but AU, coming at this from a macro level, what do you think about controlling what people know?
What does macro mean? No, I'm just kidding.
On a micro level,
it's so interesting because we think even control is an illusion. So I think that's the biggest problem that we have with this Rehoboam philosophy, if you will, is that there's a way that we can actually control people, and in this, the fly in the ointment is a perfect example of how we don't have control. And I think that's what this show is so good at. Even Ford or Arnold, we thought we were just going to make robots, but now we've created beings that have understanding of what their life is like. So I that's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the scientific advisor for this show has said it brilliantly. He said, we wanted to know how to fly, so we studied birds and we tried to create wings, and we created jets eventually. So it's like, trying to mimic the behavior of those that exhibit the attributes in which we want is vastly different. So we tried to make wings like birds fly, and we made jets eventually, and all those that had those wings. Spoiler, it didn't work out well for them. So yeah, we are dealing with a change of guard per se. There is this moment in which Liam definitely takes a stance, right, Hax? What do you think you learned about him this episode as far as where he stands as far as this ethical, appropriation of information, essentially? Like how much do people deserve to know?
Also, I think if we look at our own society, right, and we see that, this information could theoretically exist. We have so much information that we volunteer to the internet. Our lives are documented. We have cell phones that track movement, microphone, speech. The image of us is uploaded whenever we want it to be. And, this idea that this information could be purposed for it, if it is or isn't, let's say it is, right? Let's say we exist in a world where you could theoretically find out right now the next 10 years of your life. Do you do it? Mm-hmm. I think if it's a favorable 10 years, then yeah, I do it. I think if it's not, then no, do not tell me the next 10 years of my life. But the whole thing is that, you don't know until you look, right? And I think that the only way to really weigh on whether it's ethical to say for all of, mankind to know the next 10 years or the next 50 years or 200 years of our existence is a case-by-case basis. Like if I want to know, then I should have every right to know. If I don't want to know, then I should be as blind to it as I want.
Choice is key. Yeah. So you should have the choice. Okay, we do have a super chat from Louise Brooks, and Johnny is currently in what is proposed to be the worst storm in Alabama's history for the last 5 years. So I hope you're safe, brother. And don't. Like are you there? Oh wait. Okay, now
the power came back.
I take back everything. Take back everything. I was worried about you.
Yeah,
it all left.
Exactly.
So see, I had information now. Now I got that information about you, brother.
Now you don't care, right?
I don't care. You're right. Thank you, AU. We're gonna get into this. We're gonna go deep on this one. I love to have AU because AU I message all the time with like all of these philosophical and theological questions that I'm sure annoy him, but yeah, we're gonna use you up, brother. I love you. Does Bernard have the Abernathy key, and is Dolores gaming Maeve and Serac with a surrogate host? So Bernard, I don't believe we have any evidence that he has the key, that Dolores gave it. I'll post this to Hax and then AU and then Johnny. I see what you're saying here. If Bernard is more in the know than we're led to believe. I don't have any context within the story to say that. But again, there could have been revealed in this episode and I missed it.
Yeah, there was a line about, Martin saying that, Bernard, you're really the only one who needs to stay alive. And that was so out of, left field. It was just like, whoa, why him, right? Like, why? What is he important to this? And I think it makes that overall claim and what we've been talking about of Dolores is more information that we know that she knows and has done something before all of this happens, in between the time of her leaving the park and recreating Bernard, that shapes the majority of the story, and we still have to figure out what happens. And I think that just aligns to that. I think it's possible that he has the key. I think it's maybe like I think it's entirely possible that he has the key, but I think it's also maybe some kind of. So last episode I brought up this idea that maybe Arnold was recreated alongside Bernard. And there was a line in this episode about being two of yourself, and I was like, oh my god, they just whoa. But at the same time, there's a very fine line between what the audience is going to interpret as Arnold and what they're going to interpret as Bernard, the Bernard that we know, that has gone through the path of consciousness and so on and so forth, to this point. And then Arnold, still a character that we largely don't know, who may align more with Dolores's interests. And so I think it's possible that Arnold exists in there, and that's how why Dolores is saying, Bernard, you can't die because you're Arnold. And you would be the only true permadeath. But yeah, it could be the key.
Yeah, so there is the door for that to be revealed in the future. So yeah, let's keep that open. Hey, you any thoughts on that?
On Bernard, or the question that
Bernard having any information that is key to what Dolores is. Dolores, my opinion is Dolores is the only one with the key. But there's plenty of proof that Bernard is one of the same.
Well, keep in mind that Abernathy pretty much went crazy when he had all that information stuffed in him. So, in my opinion, if Dolores is smart, she would have separated it among several hosts or several pearls in order to, one, keep it secure, because she's the only one that would know how to join them. And then two, it would also give them the ability to put the other host personalities in there and desires and that sort of thing, in order to make them as functional as possible.
Yeah, because Michelle brings this up in the chat that Dolores said she made 2 faithful copies to Arnold, and she had to make another version. So yeah, we have context for it, and it's a door that's definitely open, because Arnold and Bernard are different, just as the same as the Hail Dolores and Dolores, the Dolori, differ. As soon as you have these varying experiences, you change. I do want to get your take on this, AU. What do you think about like a deterministic world, in the sense of, we've talked about this privately, but like I've actually asked you and really kind of like pushed you to really do a video essay, or at least an essay on God's place in Westworld, because it's a very interesting perspective of where God lays in this. If you believe in a divine power, where does it come in? And a lot of the questions they're posing to us are God-like, right? How much do they deserve to know? In the situation with Liam, we have a situation which he is playing God to a point, but it's a ground level God. It's like people don't deserve to know what, it's not advantageous or this or that. So do you think this is like a biblical or spiritual? Because again, it's a creation story. Whether you're somebody that is religious or not, you have to at least acknowledge we have told ourselves these stories throughout time. So where do you lay on this, like with this approach to free will? Is this something that a God would be hands off, so they're willing to give you this free will and they won't have any hand in it whatsoever? Or is it any way ethical to say, I'm not going to stop these horrible things from happening, like Paris blowing up or a Holocaust?
Yeah, I think in this particular show, they're using God as in small g. And remember, all the Caesars, wanted to be thought of as gods. And that's basically what Rehoboam is in this show, even though they're using biblical references like the Solomon Project and Caleb and et cetera. I think as far as the type of control and the way they want to control human beings, it's definitely a small g in a Hitler sort of thing, not a spiritual sort of thing.
So you think that it's too close up? They're looking at the situation in too much of a micro fashion.
Yeah, when you're talking about dollars and cents as being your motivation, that is not a biblical God as far as controlling humans and wanting to make them a better place.
So as far as free will goes, do we still have free will if a fellow human gives us a deterministic society? Because it's the free will of that human to impose a deterministic system like Rehoboam.
Well, and I forget the girl's name that shot Liam, but she pointed out, I have free will.
Mm-hmm.
I still have free will,
Yeah, because if we as humans decide to live in a deterministic way through technology, that's not a God-given determinism. So
Correct.
Yeah, so free will can still exist. I believe it's called collaborative free will, which is like a lowering of the bar. I call it designer religion.
You can take all your
ant
money,
colony.
you can ruin the credit score, you can make my girlfriend leave or whatever, but you can't determine everything that I'm going to do after that happens.
A true omniscient being would just sit back and let the people make mistakes. So, Hax, any thoughts on this? I know we talked briefly about determinism and free will before, and you said that you thought free will and determinism could exist together. And, by very definition, they cannot if you stick to the strict free will and determinism. But let's face it, none of us do.
There's like libertarian free will and maybe it's libertarian determinism.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's libertarian. Yeah, but I fully believe that there's a large part of our world that is deterministic, and as such, this will exist one day. Like, I wholeheartedly believe that this will exist one day, and it probably exists in some fashion now. And algorithmic determinism does exist right now. It's everywhere. You look at Netflix, and they look at all the data they've collected about your trends and what you've watched and how long you watched them, what you've liked and disliked. And then they say, oh, you've watched Tiger King. You'll probably like the next 40 hours of documentaries that we have about animal abuse, right?
Yeah.
Like, there is a degree of determinism and algorithmic determinism happening, but it's still ultimately our choice to click Tiger King episode 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
Fucking Baskins.
Carol fucking Baskins.
Yeah. And so, if you're on meth, especially. But no, that's a valid point, because we can stick to the vernacular and be like, okay, well, free will definitely isn't, possible if it's a deterministic universe, but there's a certain amount of determinism that happens within our universe, right? Go ahead.
Definitely. Yeah, they're like 100%. I woke up because I went to sleep late. There's a show called Devs that just defines it and describes it the greatest way that's ever been described. If you see a marble going down at a perfectly slant 45-degree angle, and you can collect all the variables humanly possible to observe that data, going down at that speed or going down that ramp, you will be able to theoretically design the entire path of where that marble has come from, and the entire path of where that marble will go. So assuming that with humanity and the world across the board, that you can collect that amount of data, sure, definitely possible. But at the end of the day, and I think what, a big part of what they said in this episode was kind of that, there is still, tiny little white spots that exist that you can, make these free will choices. And I think that, I think it's a really hard story to tell with that, with, them showing that this machine can predict all of future, all of, the next 200 years and where to go from that. But, there's tiny white spaces which, don't really align, or that. Yeah, go ahead.
Is that space right between the wing and the fuselage? Right, I can't even say it. Fuselage, where his face, there's patterns there. I can feel you on that. We got a super chat really quick from Mara Lee. Just a show of appreciation for all the content and to be able to discuss each of the episodes after they're reviewed. I'm really enjoying this season. Thank you. No, thank you, Mara Lee. Thank you so much in the chat. And
thank you.
Can I get a crack at this Dolores, Bernard, and Abernathy key here?
Yeah, have at it, brother.
Really quick. Okay, so this goes back to Louise Brooks' question. I think the Abernathy key, I believe Dolores sent that data to wherever she sent the Valley Beyond or the virtual Eden. And I agree with someone in the chat, I can't remember who it was, that thinks all they need is the coordinates, and maybe Bernard has the coordinates. It would be very smart of Dolores to erase that part of her memory if it were that valuable and give it to some unknowing person, and Bernard being that great divergence, that adversary that's part of her plan. I could see that going down that way. Also, yeah, could there be a Serac host after we've seen this episode? Her having his memory, so to speak. Maybe.
Yeah, I think. Did you freeze there, Johnny?
I think you might have DC'd.
Say hi to Toto for me. Please don't die. But what we're dealing with is a situation in which, you know, we're trying to say what is right for people to know. It's like this withholding of information to control society. You know, like religion, institution has always been accused of this. And I will say the same thing for Rehoboam. You know, is it the institution, you know, at its incarnation, the inception of this idea that is ethically flawed, or is it the people that use it? Because everybody's like, okay, religion is used to control people. Yes, it can be used to control people, but is that actually a actual like correct narrative on what it is because of what we do with it? So there's all of these things like Hax was talking about. Like you can be in this deterministic atmosphere and still have free will exhibited. Yes, it sounds silly to be like free will can exhibit in a deterministic world. It sounds silly to say that, but yeah, within reason, we don't know because we have the free will to be deterministic. So it's kind of this paradox that we live in. So it's like, what are these systems in which they're showing us, and we're showing that it might not be advantageous to see these projections of each other's lives because it's the system in which is depicting their life, and it is, do you fail because Rehoboam in the system fails to provide you with the appropriate amount of supplement financially, job wise, whatever it may be, to survive? Or is it because of your own doing? So do you fail because you are projected to fail, or you failed because they choose to have you not get this support, this type of advantageous fiscal supplementation, in which we see, Caleb being denied. He can't get a job no matter how hard he tries. So do you fail because they choose that you fail, or do you fail because you are just a failure? Is the system playing a part in it, or are you a person that obtains free will? It is very much a paradox, and I find it to be very confusing and frustrating at the same time. Because what can we do? What can we do in this government, right? Can we make our own path? Can we carve it out? Or is it have to be done within the system in which we live? And so does the system determine what we are, or do we determine what the system is? Hax.
Don't know. I mean, that's the question of all time, right? That's are our choices our own, or are they inexplicably, being controlled by everything that's happened in our past? And it's only from an outside perspective that we could possibly know. But yeah, unanswerable.
I gave you, answer the meaning of life. AU, what does it mean to have agency within an institution, such as a spiritual institution, say, a church, or any sort of a hub for people's beliefs? Do you have agency within that? Can you control?
Can you expand on that a little bit? Because I'm not understanding how that relates to the religion part.
Well, we see a lot of people that have faith in a system. And once that system tells them that they're no good in this series, then they're down. They have no hope. So how much agency do you have within this system like Rehoboam? How much agency do you have within a system such as a church or so forth? People tend to blame the system and take away any agency from themselves when it's advantageous.
Kind of like the way Caleb did when he found out
Yes.
that everybody knew what was going on.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's everybody's backbone. That's where you get measured on who you really are. Are you going to let circumstances control what you do, or are you going to stay, keep the faith and move forward? That's really what it's all about. Think about those guys that were on, Normandy Beach, and they're getting all their friends killed left and right. And your job is to go forward. You can't let those circumstances control what you do.
Yeah. And it's also really interesting to consider, like, you know, Caleb turned his drip off, right? So he has a projected future right now where he dies in 10 to 12 years. You really have to wonder if he didn't, like, if he chose to play into the system, would he have a more prosperous and long lasting life? And I mean, part of me says, yeah, of course, because like it's like, defined as taking the edge off and I don't know. I mean, right now he dies in 10 to 12 years. I don't think that if he turns it back on, then it's going to less than that. Or it may not change at all. And that's really the question there. But
It
it's
doesn't
like,
discourage him though.
what do you mean?
It doesn't discourage him. He keeps moving on. I think is the key with Caleb, right? Is that he doesn't let the system's projection dictate his life. He chooses to live on, and he can defy the system within that. That's like the paradox.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like that is the paradox, right? Because he has now witnessed this data and the projection of his life. Is if you have a simulation of something and you are witness to that, you immediately change the simulation. Immediately. It's wrong. He doesn't die in 10 to 12 years simply because he knows that he will. Because that would, assume that the system had always known that he was going to see that data. And, then this like cyclical paradox of just, oh, well, if he knew, then they knew, then he knew, then they know. And, then it's maddening, I guess. But yeah.
He becomes a victim then, but he's chosen not to become a victim. And he's chosen to live outside of the system and not the system dictate what he does. Or he just doesn't give a damn. So he does, yeah. Yes. So we are given a situation in which we are given a little bit more information about Francis. What do we think about this? It seems that Francis is still alive.
Oh, I didn't get that at all. Is that true?
Well, it seems like we see a vision, or at least a moment of him in a prison suit. It seems like there might be some deception at play. I'm not saying for sure. It seems like there might be deception at play, just like this predictive technology, as I predicted, not to be redundant, but it has to dictate life, in order to predict life. It's a better chance at predicting things if you actually dictate what happens. So we have a situation in which Francis might still be alive.
Interesting, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Someone posted in chat that Caleb is Serac's brother. And, whoa, the mechanics of that would be pretty interesting. I'd have to really think about that, but yeah, Caleb, it is definitely hinted that he's not himself, or that something has happened, and it probably all explains why Dolores picked him to begin with. But I don't know. I didn't catch anything on my first watch that really pointed to more of that Francis backstory. Maybe just like more shots to analyze later on, but nothing immediately.
Oh yeah, no. This is why it's after show. But we are given the illusion that Insight has maybe deceived Caleb, and there could be a chance that Francis is still about, and that they are using that against him, because again, the best way to predict the future is to dictate what happens in the future. So we'll have to get deeper into that. AU, any thoughts about this system and what's been revealed, and any revelation besides the fact that Serac definitely did not come out on top this episode, but I wouldn't say he is totally defeated.
Well, I've always said that Caleb is a host, so we're gonna find that out. I mean, I think that's pretty well known. And I think the other thing I wanted to mention is somebody in the chat, and I can't remember who it was. I was looking back, mentioned that the white hospital type area looked like the vault where they were running, simulations from that, and I thought it was the white version of the vault. Just the opposite of what was going on, which could mean that he's alive, and that's what they're doing. They're trying to actually do what they said in the show, which was edit their personality. But he did say, that they were replicants, basically, which is one of the reasons why I think, it's pretty much confirmed that Caleb is that, a replicant. As far as how that's going to affect the show, I don't think it's really going to affect it at all, because Serac is the one that's got to push the story forward and defeat, or try to defeat anyways, Dolores.
Yeah, so now we have to question Caleb's, not necessarily his humanity, but the way in which he was incepted and the way in which he was put into this. So is this a tool that's being used? Is that what you're claiming here, AU?
Yeah, Caleb, Jonathan Nolan talked about him being called a dog, and that's what the name means. And Caleb, in biblical terms, is basically a spy. And so I put those two together and just said that he is a agent of Rehoboam that is designed to attract someone like Dolores and use, and that way he's able to spy on what's going on with Dolores's world and her plan.
Ooh.
She thinks that she is capturing Serac's information, but that might be an intelligence spy tactic that could be used and has been used for a long time.
Yeah, I'm of the mind of with Luis here that he is human, but also there is ample proof that he has been injected into this situation in a artificial way. But also he could believe he's human, so that kind of still sticks with it. I don't believe that Caleb is maliciously going about his actions right now. I think that it could be somewhat contrived and somewhat manipulated, in which he is just deceived by the system in which he works in.
I think that's what we're talking about, though, right? Free will. If he's a host as an agent for Rehoboam, he wouldn't even know that he is being used.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hax, any thoughts?
Not really. Yeah, I totally agree. It's very well possible that Caleb's a host, or could be human, but purposely injected into the situation by Serac to, kind of present a manageable pawn in the Dolores equation that he can maybe better calculate things with. But I don't know. The start of this, like I really feel like it's Dolores with this hugely manipulative task, and we kind of see in the last episode, we see the manipulation of Dolores and the bank teller, or the Anderson private equity guy, Michael, and Caleb witnessing this, and it's like this. He's witnessing this instant switch in which she's able to then quickly manipulate the people around her. And now in this episode, he sees her get shot and then walks away like nothing's happening, which I said a billion times is exactly what would happen, and why it made no sense that she was hurt at all. Like, she has the ability to turn off these pain receptors, and is manipulating Caleb for some reason. And I think
No, there's a lot of questions around that as well. Luis Brooks did have a $5 super chat. How did Serac get older than his brother in Dempsey? That really threw me. Any thoughts, Hax?
Say that one more time. I'm so sorry.
How did Serac get older than his brother in Dempsey? That really threw me.
Didn't catch on to that.
Yeah, I didn't see any evidence of that either. I just saw that, obviously his brother, they ran into the situation in which they ran into, and then Serac continued on with the business. So I don't know if there was some. Am I missing something on that one?
I don't know. They're probably supposed to look like the same age. It'd be really interesting if there was a timeline play there, or some kind of role reversal, or host play there. But I think it's maybe just weird casting. Like it's
like the VFX and
the effects don't really show an accurate depiction of
too keen of an eye, Luis.
older brothers.
Too keen of an eye. Yeah. I'm sure especially Hacks watch his video like on Wednesday or Thursday, and he will have a nice analyst of that. I cannot speak to that right now because I didn't see that. I'm not saying it didn't happen or there wasn't any discrepancy, but I honestly, right after the show, I didn't see it. It looks like they switched out the actor. And that could be his brother was the controlled place Dempsey in the car. So what we're dealing with here is a situation in which, Dolores is working within a new world, and this new world has a deterministic system, Rehoboam, in it, and Rehoboam is unable to detect this new type of behavior, but it's not necessarily host behavior. It's these wild cards. It's the type of people that are revolutionaries, artists, and so forth. So we're dealing with a situation in which they want to keep things constant. And we see him go to a government, and he does cite that the northern sector is not aligned with the southern. I believe this was in South America. That is kind of a connection to my Jeroboam. I'm maybe reaching a little bit here, but Jeroboam had the north and Rehoboam had the south with Judea. But there is a split within it. But we do see a government for the first time. Hacks, what do we think about that? And then UAU, a government for the first damn time in this world, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it was really interesting. He took on this role of like openly, demanding things like, if I was this person and had access to this data, I would very much not, I would never interact with anybody. I would just, make these things happen. I would never have a face. I would I don't know. The fact that he is like approaching leaders of Brazil and saying, hey, I'm going to replace you if you don't do exactly what we say, seems like something's off. Like it seemed like, I don't know. It just seems like, it seems really forward, for this person who is invisible to the world. And it also, I don't know, really makes me question the power and maybe like his influence and how he's able to make these statements and make these actions without throwing everything else into chaos.
It's like, are you kind of, let me see if I'm on the same track with you, Hacks. It's kind of like the mobster going up to like the governor or the mayor, you know what I mean? And being like, listen, like, because you feel his hands are so dirty that he wouldn't want to bring that attention. But there's that fine line of like the influence that he has over the system, right? Because this is what I was trying to get at. Maybe not in the best way. Sorry, tired. But earlier with is the people in which utilize these systems, whether it's an institution of religion or whether it's an institution of government. Are they the embodiment of that institution, or is it because things are advantageous? It's like, okay, well, yeah, people use that for power. It's like, well, yeah, it's advantageous for that, but that doesn't mean that at the inception of it that it defies it. So it's like, are you getting that? If you were in charge of this, Serac should be so damn dirty that there's no way he should be approaching governments, which I'm with you on. Like, it seems like a risky move, right?
Yeah, it definitely seems like a risky move, but maybe it's just this, like, they need to show us that he's not the good guy that I once thought he may be, right? He is very much manipulative, using his power to make things happen as opposed to just letting them naturally happen, as they would. And once you start getting your hands into the system and making these ripple effects that then change other things across the world, then is it responsible for you to stop? Like if you save 1,000 puppies from a burning building, then you are responsible for 1,000 puppies, right? And what those 1,000 puppies' lives become. We are
adopting 1,000 puppies on this live stream, just so you know. Super chat it away. Get them all right now. They're all a mess, so they'll be pooping everywhere. I know. I think you're right, and it is South America, and there's a commentary in our real world, unfortunately, with a lot of fuckery in South America that really isn't acknowledged. We kind of just like ran roughshod over there for a long time. Not very good on our half, but AU, any insight on what has been going on with Serac and what we've been, at least with this episode, we've seen that he is reaching, and he seems to be at a place where he is a little bit desperate, because like Heck said, even if he has dirt on people, it's not really advantageous for him to be like, listen, like, in going to heads of state and stuff like that. Like, it was probably a more distanced relationship before this situation.
Yeah, he probably already knew that the election was going, what the outcome was, and that's why he went to him and said, "We'll support you. We just need you to promise that you'll do what we say." And so when he won, it was actually his efforts that could have won the election. It wasn't necessarily Serac's, but in this case, he's obviously leveraging everything he can, and the whole um, idea of being overtaken by one of his generals is just another way of showing Minority Report issues are a factor in the way that Rehoboam is designed, meaning there might be more to it than just an algorithm.
And Minority Report was so ahead of its time. So much in that movie is so far into the conversation that we're having now. And
just
like
the eyes,
yeah,
eye recognition or retina recognition.
everything. Yeah, like the tablets, floating displays, the cars. Like, man, I love it, man. I was watching a video about that, and yeah, Minority Report, underrated.
Well, yeah, it brings up a valid point because these are, and this is what I talk about. Westworld is constantly bringing up like questions of a divine power, a question of institution, questions of our ethical behavior on a micro level. And I constantly, as I've alluded to, kind of pick AU's brain on this. And AU is somebody that's very well read as far as scripture goes and stuff like that. And I'll go to him. And it's like, because we always have these questions of, and this is what this episode brought up. Is how much do we need to know? It's like, what is a God that lets a Holocaust happen? When is too much? When do they step in? And it's like, do you either have free will or you don't? And as we talked about earlier, determinism can still happen within free will because we have the free will to be a deterministic society. So it's kind of a paradox, and it kind of gets at you and it kind of gnaws at you. And it frustrates me personally. And, I go through all the literature I go through. I'm listening to the Bicameral Mind by Gillian James right now. A lot of misinformation there, but a lot of intelligent information there as well. And it's like, what do you think they're getting at AU here as far as Westworld giving a commentary on spirituality? Like, as far as the gods walking amongst Earth and stuff like that with Dolores, you don't have to inject too much personal stuff, but like, what do you think they're going for as far as like thematic issue and stuff like that, as far as depicting a new god of artificial beings?
Well, one of the things that I've got to applaud, the Nolans for is in this one is that they're injecting literature and intelligence to us through all different types of poetry, music. I mean, just everything is just pointing us to let's think about things in a bigger way than we already are. And I just love it. And as far as the spiritual part of it goes, if they're exposing people to explore what that really means, then that's all that's important. As far as the specifics go, I don't buy into their trying to inject anything as far as their beliefs without being overhanded or heavy-handed.
Yeah, because I've spoken to you about this in the past, about how I've actually came around to more of a spiritual side because of the show, which you would think the opposite. And I'm neither here nor there. You know what I mean? I'm still in between, but I've at least accepted it more because these are the questions that make me think about bigger macro situations like determinism, free will. When you play out the origins of Genesis in original sin on screen, it touches more close to home. And I think it's advantageous because it's not shilling one way or another, but it's making you think about, okay, so what is this story at face value? And what would it be like if we had a new race of beings that were rising up? So, it's kind of like inside of the sausage factory, for lack of a better reference. But at the same time, it's really made me appreciate more of the spiritual side of things and so forth. And that's why I find this to be a advantageous series, because it even at its worst, it asks the best. And, like we've had debates about, ethical treatment of, these artificial beings on here, me and Hex, and we're going to do it in the finale. We're going to have a showdown. But, like I will admit, it's a social norm within this society to act this way. So, like, you are preconditioned to a extent to act a certain way. So how much actually are you accountable for that type of behavior when society has, cultured you, has conditioned you to do these types of things? and it's a very interesting and intriguing aspect. Like Liam himself is a black hat, right? Like he is supposedly this black hat in Westworld that has done terrible things. By all means, we should think, because of the way in which the show's been presented to us, we shouldn't have to think. But trust me, they're projecting that it's not ideal to go there and shoot these hosts because they feel feelings. So to make, we're not going to do it now. Wait for I'm gonna smash you. I will smash you. Trust me. But by all means, I think that we should think about this in a way of like, we know that it's not ethical, but the show is telling us.
Don't stomp on your Roomba. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Don't stomp your Roomba, bro.
But you know what I mean?
Listen,
like
if your Roomba starts talking to you, that's when you need to fear it. All right. If
yeah,
you
but
let
we're
it
talking
die
about things that are already sentient,
charge,
so let's not get there now.
Yeah, but those hosts were fuck puppets. That was it, dude. Like if my Roomba dies and then it comes back and haunts me,
we're not talking about Roombas.
Literally right here, right? If it comes back and haunts me, I'll admit that you're right then.
You cannot defend the argument. You cannot defend the argument of do things that are capable of feeling pain deserve to feel pain with a Roomba. You're talking about the hypothetical situation of the no. Yes. They feel pain. Let's not do this
again.
The Roomba
and
you smash so many different realities and hypotheticals into a firm statement that I made that was it is so unreasonable. I said if they feel pain and you know they feel pain, is it ethical for them to be injected with pain by you? And you said, "Well, it's a hypothetical." No. I didn't give you a hypothetical.
If you knowingly hurt somebody
that feels pain, that's what I posed.
If you knowingly do anything that would hurt any other thing or creature, person, host, Roomba, you are maliciously doing something.
Thank you.
That's
what I posed to you in the first place.
Can I finish?
Well, I know because you're acting like it's a revelation. That's what I posed to you in the first place. I said, if you know they can feel pain.
But you don't know. You don't go to Westworld knowing that you're about to murder people.
Yes, you do. It's
you go to
contract.
Westworld. You go to Westworld to play with fuck puppets. That's it, dude. Like that's the thing. You don't go there to have tea and crumpets in the wild, wild west. Okay. You go there to shoot, to play bank robbery, to go through Kodiak Mountains and murder other people that are trying to steal your gold.
It is not hidden that
it does not make me a bad person to then want to go do a bank robbery inside of a simulation.
But that's not a simulation. Okay. See, again, you keep
simulated feeling. It's simulated feeling. Yes, it is.
Explicitly stated to you that they feel pain. Is it right for you to inflict pain on them?
If I knowingly go there, knowing it's a day.
Yes. That was the pain. It's not. I'm not giving stop turning everything I say as an absolute. I'm giving you an absolute, and you keep turning it into a hypothetical. Please stop doing that.
Yeah.
I gave it to you the first time 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
Is it ethical to inflict pain on something you knowingly know can feel pain? That was what I posed to you. Thank you. That's all. I mean, that's why. I mean, this could have ended 3 weeks ago.
You go to Westworld knowing they feel pain?
Read the contract. Read it. Read the terms and conditions.
Dog, if I play video games and
that is not a video game.
Can I do this?
Go.
If I play a video game and the video game they shoot real blood when I shoot them, should I feel bad for shooting the person in the video game?
How can you are? That is not what we're talking about. You keep turning it into a hypothetical. You talk about simulation of pain when I'm talking about
it's a video game, bro.
Hey guys, let's get it back to the show.
But you keep doing it. You keep deviating from the point.
I will keep doing it, bro.
I didn't pose that to you.
Sometimes in a video game, you actually go fishing.
Not a video game.
Kill people.
That's true.
Okay, yeah, that's true. If we were talking about video games, we're not. We're talking about beings that have a nervous system that is programmed into them. They can feel pain, whether or not you agree with the agency in which they get that pain. They feel it. Is it
simulate pain? Yep, they do.
No, then you simulate pain. Tell me how you feel pain.
Sure. Yeah, I simulate pain. Sure.
I'm gonna shoot you. It's on stream. We're gonna do it. It's done. It's done.
Why would you go to Westworld? Why would you go to Westworld to
life?
I'm not saying it's a I'm not saying it's not a
I love
cultural
that.
norm,
That's
Hacks.
great.
I'm not saying it's not a cultural norm, but you as the outsider looking into this situation should be smart enough to know that it is not ethical to inflict pain on a being that can feel pain. I don't give a fuck if you think it's simulated. I don't give a shit about any of that because you can't explain to me what human consciousness is. You cannot explain to me how your sensorium works. You are a biological being that fancies himself.
Guests don't know that. Guests are told that they are
I
going
didn't
there
give
to
you
have
the
a fun
hypothetical
time.
of guess. I gave you a hypothetical of you knowing you can inflict pain on something. Is it
Dog,
ethical?
the hypothetical is assuming that I, not conscious me right now, knowing the entire story of Westworld, is going to Westworld. Do you think that I'm going to Dolores and fucking Dolores against her will, knowing that she becomes a sentient being and then murders humanity? No. Tell me that's not the hypothetical.
No, I'm telling you exactly what I've told you time and time again. Is it ethical to inflict pain on a being you know can feel pain? No. Right?
Pain is just a program. Laser 406.
Yeah, wait for the fucking ER
Well,
to tell you that.
isn't that what the problem was between Arnold and Ford? I mean, isn't this the same discussion they're having? And aren't they going to the same levels of I'm right and you're wrong? I honestly, I really believe that this is exactly what they're talking about.
It is, and that is what makes this argument very frustrating, I'll admit, but also very relevant because the fact that we don't know exactly how we feel pain and why we feel pain, meaning our sensorium, the way in which we're conscious of those around us and what is happening to us. You can't explain it. So you cannot fancy yourself, especially in the same breath of dismissing spirituality. I'll take I'm God created because I'm a Christian. I'll take it. I don't even agree with it, but I'll take it. But you cannot have this hypocritical approach to biological beings inflicting pain on the technological beings without in saying, oh, they are just simulating what I feel. Because if you can, now you have to explicitly and definitively explain to me how you feel pain and why you feel pain. You cannot, because the leading neurosurgeons can't. So you might be smart, and you are a smart gentleman. You cannot explain this. You are hindering.
I just explained it. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
No, you didn't. It's always a hypothetical.
We can move on, or we cannot move on. But like SK says it perfectly. You know, the guests barely know that those hosts can feel more than the animatronic beings in Disney's Hall of Presidents. If I go punch the fucking President Trump's animatronic Disney Hall of Presidents in 20 years, I don't think that I'm at all worried about the repercussions of that, or if that's morally or ethically a right thing to do, right?
But we're not talking about people being in the dark. We're talking about.
We can continue this conversation as long as you want. It's your channel, bro. But just letting you know.
I'm just letting you know that it's not okay to change a non-hypothetical into a hypothetical. You agree with me that it's not a ethical thing to do. So stop switching it like I'm saying it's a hypothetical. You know they can inflict pain. I mean, you agree with me on that. Why do we have to argue about something that we are not even arguing about?
I will literally stay here for 12 hours arguing this. It is up to you what you want to do now.
Well, I don't know. You don't seem to want to have to answer the situation. It is a very clear question. If they feel pain, is it ethical to inflict pain?
Bro,
I think he's already
yes or no?
Yeah, I've answered it. I've answered it. Like, what do you mean? I can't see your camera. Are you taking an alcoholic beverage to cope with this? What's happening now?
No, I lost my earpiece. I said, is it ethical to inflict pain on something that can feel pain? Yes or no? That's all. That is the premise right there. That's all you need to know.
Justin,
yes or no?
This is God. Move on.
No, I think he answered that perfectly well.
What did he say?
He said it's not ethical to inflict pain on something that feels pain.
Thank you. I've been trying to get at that for 3 weeks. That's all.
And you're not listening for 3 weeks. I don't know.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah.
That's all. Okay, let's move on. Now, does the machine hypothetically grow? Does this Alexa come at me? Maybe. I agree with you on that. That's more up in there. Let's not act like we're so far apart. All right, so let's move on. Finally, thank you.
Good discussion, though.
Well, it's relevant. They feel pain, so should they feel it? Probably not. No, I just don't like hypotheticals when I didn't pose one. That's 3 weeks worth of just stress relief for me. Thank you guys. So anyways, let's talk about the episode. So now we feel that we have a situation in which we see one of the Dolores sacrifice themselves. And this gives a answer to why Hax brought up, and I will give you a compliment, intelligently in the pre-show, you son bitch, that why would they blow up the one of these top floors when Rehoboam is very visible on one of the bottom floors. So if you'd like to take it from there, Hax, we have the situation in which we have Collins sacrifice himself.
Yeah, I don't know more to add to it though. That there's just this idea of like Dolores is sacrificing themselves for Dolores Prime.
Yeah, well, we have a situation in which they are Dolores, though, right? Like, this is a clone of Dolores, so they don't see they're not lesser Doloreses. It's her.
I mean,
Pearl.
Sure. Well, I mean, we don't really know. We don't know that, right? Because it's not defined as anything. They call themselves Dolores, but we know that there is a very dominant and submissive role between the one who is in charge and the one who is making everyone else do her bidding. And I think it's really interesting to know that you are the Dolores that will then blow yourself up when the time comes, and not the Dolores that makes it out alive or whatever the case may be. Or the other part of that is that maybe they don't know that. Maybe they don't know that they are the lesser Dolores, and all of them think that they will live. I think that maybe there would be a little more infighting there, but I do think that the main Dolores dies in this season. I think that maybe Halores will show a more sympathetic role to humanity because she's now experiencing the
Nathan effect.
Nathan effect and not or is more sympathetic to humanity than Dolores leaving the park in season 2.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think there's any, again, there's no evidence either way. Because if I were to replicate 5 Haxes, all well spoken, not necessarily saying the words I always want to hear, but blah, 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 doesn't matter. That's up to me. That's my issue. But yeah, you are going to all believe you're Haxes. So these Chris's are all going to be Chris's. They hypothetically should not be any different, right? They should all believe you should be of the same mind. You will deviate from there, but you shouldn't by nature have any deficiency or any lesser expectations. All Chris's should think alike. Hypothetically, if you were to just duplicate yourself, that's what we've been given. A situation with Dolores has replicated herself within Pearl. So they are all Dolores taking on different roles. So one would not be lesser than the other unless explicitly stated or given a reason for. So it is a interesting concept, but also does that Dolores recognize the validity or at least the advantageous side of having multiple Doloreses? So they're more willing because they will live on. It's kind of like you can't kill an idea, but you can kill a person. It's kind of one of those situations. So we're faced with Collins willing to sacrifice herself. So that's Dolores dying for the cause, but that Dolores is dying. That Dolores is going out. That is Dolores feeling the way she feels, and that is her making a sacrifice right there. That doesn't take away from it, in my opinion, but it is interesting. It's like when there are multiple yous, like quantum physics poses and all of these other theories, are you a lesser being, or is there just greater opportunity right there? So we see a more person for the cause other than, person for their own, their own gain. So we do see a sacrifice right there, a martyr. So we see the top floor blow up, but we also see what? Serac do a hologram disappear. So we're under the influence that Dolores must have thought that he was physically there, right?
I don't think that she thought he was physically there.
Well, they tried to blow him up.
No. Well, maybe, I guess, but I thought he was just.
Yeah, I didn't get that impression either.
Well, why would he blow it up if they
he was caught? He was dead.
Well, not only was his job complete, which was transferring Serac's file, she had no need for him.
It was compromised. Liam was gone.
She used him to get from Liam to Serac and the file transfer. And once that's done,
so it's not a murder.
Let's cause some damage. Let's cause some chaos. That was all.
So yeah, it's not an attempt on a life. It's just Mission Impossible style deconstruct. Okay. So, but I don't. Yeah, I guess it's compromised. So yeah, that does give credence to lesser Dolores, but at the same time, that doesn't really make sense if you're a clone, but I guess it's for the cause. So wasn't trying to kill, just trying not to get caught in case of it, some extraction could happen. And then we see a scenario in which we have Bernard there. We have Stubbs there. We see them going through. So they are somewhat still in line with Dolores. What do we think their play is after this?
Ooh.
Because he died for them.
I mean, you know, in the grand scheme, like what do we think Dolores' plan is now?
Well, what do you think their plan is now? Because
Bernard and Stubbs.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's an aspect that, you know, Bernard is now having to come to terms with, you know, him knowing pretty much outright that he is some kind of pawn in her game, right? Because Dolores says essentially, you know, you're the only one who needs to live or who can't be rebuilt. And this would be, you know, the biggest indication that, hey, something is wrong with me. There's something hidden inside of me, or there's, you know, more to this plan that I don't know. Because I have to imagine he would view himself as just, you know, another host, and why would his involvement be anything in particular to the grand scheme of undoing humanity? But yeah, I mean, I think that I don't know. I think their plan is whatever it's always been, is just to try to figure out a way to stop her.
It gives credence to why Dolores brought Bernard, right? Because we've been asking that question. So it gives credence to why this is happening. Because we have seen Collins, which is Dolores, for all intents and purposes. We need to understand that is Dolores sacrificing herself. But Bernard and Stubbs get away, right?
Yeah.
So it's faith in them. Yeah, so it is the plan going on. So this whole plan that was set about in the past, at the very beginning, at Escape, is playing through. So does faith in others, and that's advantageous because, like I said on the pre-stream, it's like, oh, what do you think about a plan that's all Justin's? It's like, all right, who do you got on board with you? I got Justin, one more Justin. So yeah, there's other people on board there. You know what I mean? Like it's a better laid out plan. Yeah, if you're, it's for everybody. Who's on board? Me, and then there's me. One more me, and then Collins. Oh fuck, that's me as well. So yeah, it works out a little bit better. So yeah, we're dealt with a situation with Caleb is drugged out of his mind through the whole scenario, and yeah, I liked it. I'm gonna say this was my least favorite episode so far. It didn't add a lot to the story, in my opinion. I think that we got something from Serac, but all in all, we got a little bit of Easter eggs for Francis, and then we got a little bit of information on Serac and the scenario in which he is in. But realistically, this was a chase scene for the whole episode. I'm a little disappointed. I'll admit it. I love it when I love it, and I hate it when I hate it. This felt like one big chase scene. And then Liam is shot in the stomach. Any predictions right there?
I think if you go through the episode again and write down something you've learned that you didn't know before, you'll have pages full. They're small pieces of information that are
back. Give them to
throughout.
us.
Yeah, and I definitely think you'll change your mind after that.
No, I'm not against it. But what have we learned?
I mean, like I don't know, we learned a good bit. Like A was saying, like after, you know, we analytically go through and document those things. You know, the big thing that was revealed is you know, this idea that, you know, her process in which she wants to undo humanity is you know, turning humanity against each other. And that was something that we've talked about for, you know, long before the season even started, is you know, the best way to destroy humanity is just to let humanity destroy itself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then that's still her plot, and you know, the oppressed people rise up and overthrow the oppressors, is what she's hoping for, at least. I think that the episode was fine. I mean, I really liked this episode in the sense of you know, the genre, like being able to like, it's like showing us multiple ways of experiencing you know, humanity, or different lenses of viewing humanity, while you know, at the same time, they uncover the plots of how people have been manipulating humanity and open the world's eye to this deception, while at the same time it's like the perception of this poor drug trip goes on. I don't know. It was really, I liked it. Plus, it also reminded me of the Westworld. I'm sorry, the Watchmen episode.
Oh yes, it did. Yes, the one we did
everything
the
is in
after
black
show
and white.
for. Yeah.
Yeah, and I really like that.
Yeah, it had the film noir. Yeah, no, I liked it with the play of emotions. I'm not saying it was a non-entertaining episode. I'm saying as far as an after show goes and what we've learned, I'm not saying we can't learn anything from it, but yeah, like it was just a prolonged escape that did give us an insight into Caleb a little bit as far as Serac's background. So it's very interesting. We have a situation in which it's like, what happens when humanity evolves to the point of almost a godlike situation, a power that is omniscient like this? What do we do with it? Is that ethical? Is that something that as long as it's a man-made machine that's again our own choice to be deterministic or not? And it brings up a lot of the old Westworld tropes and so forth, but I would have liked to see a little bit more. Do we think Liam Neeson, or not Liam, I said Liam Neeson, he'll never die. Do we think Liam Neeson, yeah, I got a special set of skills. No, do we think that Liam is done for, or do we think he's gonna make it?
I think he's dead.
Hey,
yeah.
Who's dead?
Liam Neeson.
Liam Neeson. I can guess
Liam
Dempsey. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's definitely dead. What stunned me was in the comments. We were talking about Serac's brother being Caleb, and I just can't see that. But I definitely will be checking that out on the
Westworld.
Yeah, I know. I thought the same thing. I was like, whoa.
Why would you have the military
Why not?
background?
Yeah.
Why not, guys?
With
can throw out
him
anything.
being left by his mother and all of that. That whole thing is just absolutely a Bernard cornerstone from season 1.
Can't prove it wrong. Must be right.
You're right. You're absolutely
it's
right.
Westworld. It could happen. So have fun with that.
I love the unicorns.
Yeah. You know what I mean? It gets a little bit out there. It's a little bit frustrating. It's like, well, it could happen, so it must be happening. But yeah, I actually do think that this episode does implicate a lot of non-simulation theory, but also we did not see Maeve, which is the primary suspect of simulation. So I will give you that.
I mean, there's something really interesting about like Serac's entire plot seemed to really involve Maeve, and then we just saw like them take a huge hit that he wasn't expecting, without Maeve ever being in the picture here
in the real world. So yes, I'm going to go ahead and say it's a void of confidence for your simulation theory, because it was him in the real world interacting without Maeve.
Maybe.
Well, don't just. I'm trying to give you. But it is separated. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah.
Like it's like we saw him there in the real world, and he didn't have Maeve, and Maeve has been in the real world, and he's put her in the real world supposedly.
The other way to view it is that this is a simulation in which he doesn't consider what Maeve has to offer, and that this happens, and then this is him viewing the future where everything collapses, and in the Maeve storyline, he's going through a new way to approach it with the help of a host. The host being Maeve to fight this whole thing.
God damn you. That is right. But I mean, like, I tried to meet you with the simulation theory and I still got it wrong. So yeah, no, but that's got a lot of,
that's what you get for messing with people that are smarter than you, Justin.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, no, it is what it is. Yeah. I tried to mix with the simulation theory and I got it wrong. But yeah, I thought that, no Maeve means no simulation means failure. But yeah, it is what it is. We'll see what happens. AU, speaking about being smarter then, what do you propose happens next, brother? What do you propose happens after this episode? Where do you think everybody falls into play? Because we got
if I didn't see it on
the episodes.
On the after show, what comes next, where they go back to Westworld, I would not have believed it. But yeah, my theory is obviously the battle between Serac controlling people and Dolores wanting to free everybody, with the fact that she is going to replace Rehoboam, only because her goal has always been to go to the real world and defeat humankind. That's always been her goal, right? So as far as what's next, obviously she's going to find out that Caleb is the spy, and do away with him. As far as William goes, I definitely think he's going to be in next year. So he's going to stay around just to aggravate us and make it
Yeah.
where we don't like him, but we got to have him, like Ford. So yeah, Maeve, I think, is probably the biggest wild card in the whole thing, because she has the ability to control, when she's in the real world, she'll be able to control what the Dolores.
Yeah. Well, assuming that
but-
she's in the real world and it's not all a simulation created by somebody smarter than me, then yeah, you're right.
Last but not least, we definitely have another reveal of the fifth pearl, which I think is going to be a second Hale, just because of the way that they behaved. Obviously, the one in white has been the baby Dolores, or the younger adolescent Dolores, where she's cut herself, she's been crying, she needs her mommy, she takes naps, that kind of stuff. And the darker dressed Hale, which is the Wyatt character, she's the one that has to learn how to cry when she sees the real Hale crying on screen. So that's going to be the last of the reveals.
Yeah, I mean, there's an embracement of certain personality traits, but they are still the same person. So, there is effectively no baby nor adult. There is the embracement of certain attitudinal, aspects of a person. So, again, these are clones. These are replicants. So it does need to stay within those lines. But Dolores does have many different shoes in which she slips into. So
I think the reason Dolores did that is because she wants to really psych Serac out in regards to who is he really dealing with? Is he really dealing with the spy from Delos, or is he dealing with, Dolores as Wyatt?
Yeah, I mean, again, my prediction is she will play in the Jeroboam. Jeroboam, of course, falls because of the disrespect for the culture and religious standards of the people. So it makes sense that Dolores would not hold with those, and she's going to take over in a very, very authoritative way and not have any regard for that. But she's shown so far a little bit of, acceptance for the people. So, giving them a choice is all they can give. And I think that she's given Caleb a choice, but now we have a little bit of a situation with Francis in the system in which things can get turned on their head. We'll have our darkest before the dawn moment before season 3, episode 8, for sure. So we still have a caper to play out. We just had the chase scene done in one episode right here. It is what it is. I think that it was telling to a certain aspect. And I think you're right that we will see more once we do a rewatch and we really take it in. But again, I think that what we learned today was, again, the question of the validity of Rehoboam as a program in general for society. Is it advantageous? Is it not, for people to know? Because now I think Robert brought it up on the pre-show. What were those signs and people protesting? Now we know why, right?
Yeah.
So now we know why, the people, because they shined a light on it. So it's not coercing, it's shining a light. There is a difference between, manipulating people or bringing people to your side and then just shining a light on some evil,
I mean, yeah, but at the same time, like, Dolores knows that it's going to cause unrest. It's very much a manipulation on her part to reveal all of that information. Liam even says, like, this will destroy what we know as life. She's like, yeah, fuck it, dude. And, next we see people breaking up, probably murders, fires, explosions, unrest, and the innocents that are killed and because of this reveal, also, points to, hey, what she did was also manipulation.
Though, yeah, I'm not saying that there wasn't a certain amount of coercion within it, but there is something to be said for proving the other wrong and proving yourself right, right? You know, the argument of they're wrong, but you don't prove yourself right. So you shine a light on the incorrect, but you don't necessarily prove yourself right. You're right by default. You're right by virtue. You're right. This is how many presidential campaigns run. It's never running on what's correct. It's running on they're incorrect. So I think Dolores more so is revealing what's incorrect about their system rather than, proving her own platform to be the way to go. Because what is Dolores' platform? What does she plan to do once she takes over and crushes this system? Because society, whether or not you think this is advantageous for it or not, you have a system in play. Taking a system out of play within a large group of people could be very problematic. And I think that's what we're going to get to. Again, you don't have this story progress without the progression in agency gained by our protagonist, Dolores, and I think it's going to go from there. So I think that, final thoughts on it are not a bad episode, entertaining. It was kind of cool. It had a Watchmen feel to it. And you can't get a big revelation every single episode, so my expectations are high. But it was telling. It showed us a little bit about Serac's background. I'm not feeling any more empathetic or any less empathetic towards him, but you can see that he's a human being that was, at least with a macro view, trying to approach this in a sensible way. And we've finally come to the conclusion that if people can feel pain, or things can feel pain, that it's not ethical to give them pain, and now we can crush that. And thank you for that. AU, besides your one insult that I do not appreciate whatsoever, by any means whatsoever, it's always great to have you on, because we have a lot of deep conversations about what Westworld means, as far as spirituality and stuff like that, and how there is a place in what seems to be an atheist show for spirituality, and how I've come around to looking into the scripture and stuff like that, and finding not only plot conveniences and little theories, but also questioning, because when you bring it to the forefront, it's very advantageous. It's never advantageous to dismiss information and try to prove yourself right and others wrong, to reject that in which is given to you because it's not advantageous. So I think that I've learned a lot from you, and you've been a very you've been able to sit on the sidelines and not inject your own personal beliefs in the show, and I'm very impressed by that, because it didn't even come to me until last season, that after the show you told me what your beliefs were, and I found that to be so interesting, that you could view the show in the way in which you do, and you could do it in a subjective, or not subjective, objective manner, and I find that to be impressive, brother. And I think more people need to be like you. Do good to do good, not push your views. You're not a shill.
Yeah, I can believe in God and watch naked people. It's okay.
Yeah, it works. Yeah. It works. So people don't think that could be happening. It works.
Yeah, and I just wrapping up. There is something really interesting, about is there a creator? Is there, a God? And this idea of determinism. And, I think that, if determinism exists and our society is deterministic, then there is a great push that there is a God, right? Because, there is so many aspects and so many variables that would go into predicting, all of mankind and, past and future, and creating the world, right? And, all things that God has done or has ever done or knows, can all be explained scientifically if we believe that deterministic is real. And I love that idea.
Yeah, it's almost, and I've got this book right here called Quantum Glory. And it's, it kind of goes along that lines. It's, science proving heaven and so forth. Do I stand by any firm belief? Absolutely no, because I'm a pansy, I guess, a coward. But I find it to be interesting. The more and more you try to disprove something, you tend to prove it. And there is that aspect of it where you can, come to the conclusion. My idea of creation starts at the macro view, and it starts at a God created this universe, this galaxy in which we live in, and everything that is a part of it doesn't disprove or prove God. It doesn't need to be, a lack of evolution or a lack of this or that special creation to prove a belief system. I believe that there has to be something at least that proved to provide us with opportunity. So it's a macro view, but again, that is such designer religion, and I talked about it on my stream the other day, and I'm guilty of it because it's I'm just picking and choosing. So it helps to talk to somebody like AU that does actually stay true to his beliefs and stuff like that. And it's interesting, his take on Westworld, because it's drastically different.
Not to interrupt, thank you very much for saying that. But we have a super chat from Shade of the Evening, and also some comments about Liam saying to Caleb. Any thoughts on that for both of you?
You cut out for a minute. Can you repeat it? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Liam says to Caleb, "It was you," when he was asking him about what's my end story, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It was a really weird conversation that I think there's going to be some some way to explain it, right? Little threads of conversations across the show that all lead to this point. But I think it probably doesn't point to him just being him, right? And his backstory maybe being a manipulation of something else, or just outright him being a host, or somebody else that we've seen. But I don't know just yet.
It pains this unintelligent being to say that this leads to the catalyst, in which I spoke about in the pre-show, in which there needs to be this time in which there needs to be a flip, meaning we see something that happens in the future or past that connects it, and that is a moment like that, people. I'll admit to it. This is a moment where he says that it was you, in which we might see a flashback, we might see a twist in a simulation. I hate it so much, but it could be the only explanation, and I won't ignore it. That's what that leads me to believe, is something deeper at play, because like Hex said, we have I need to have a second watch, obviously, but there's nothing to tell me other than something happened that we haven't seen, because there's no explanation for that, right, Hex? It was you that did what?
Yeah, it also kind of makes me think of the conversation when Serac is sitting down with the government official and says, "Hey, it's going to be him that replaces you." And I think that's maybe shows that Liam maybe has seen this character or seen this person before enacting that. But if that's true, then why not take steps to prevent that from happening? But then we get into the paradox of simulation knowledge, simulation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we
It
had a comment.
happened right after we see Caleb pull the blindfold off of that one older guy. And I don't know if you think that that's Liam's dad or Liam Sr., where he's escorting the guy. And Liam might be saying that you're the one that shot my dad. Well, but we see Serac kill his dad, so it's not really his dad, but it's somebody that's older that has some sort of control over.
It's saying that you did something that we don't know about that's going to make a big difference. In the most simplistic terms, it might sound foolish, but that's exactly what we've been given is, hey, you're the one that did something that means a big deal. That is exactly what we've been given. And I spoke about this in the pre-show. I said, you have to give me a point, a catalyst in which you have this simulation mean something. Meaning one point to another, a connection must be made that changes the story. And this could be one of those moments. Now, you have to still provide that, meaning like context for what exactly he did. But this is a little bit of an Easter egg. And somebody said, it's such an odd conversation considering this is an atheist show. That's what I'm speaking about. This is a show that would, at least for me, appear to not be something that would make me explore it. But spirituality comes up when you have to have a rise of a new civilization, a new being. You have a creation story in front of you. And I'm not shilling one way or the other, but it's a very, very interesting conversation to be had. And it makes you think about creation. It makes you think about your own evolution and what makes you the way you are, because it's reverse engineering. Every time Westworld asks you if the host can do something, you have to ask yourself how you do it. And when you ask yourself how you do it, you must examine how you evolved, how you were created, and so forth. And it really puts it on the table. It's like doing it right in front of you. It's going to the sausage factory. I'll never get a better analogy, but it really is. It's seeing the sausage be made, and it sometimes is less, magical, less whatever, but at the same time, it makes you think about things in a more base level, realistic fashion, in my opinion. And
certainly not romantic, right?
It's not romantic at all, but it's truthful. And you can tend to see how these type of beliefs could come into play, and it does not devalue them. and it doesn't give them absolute, proof of existence either. But it's worth noting that if you're going to have a new species raised to the point of consciousness, then you must have a creation story. How would this come about? And you start to see maybe some stories that are advantageous about ethical behavior and so forth. So, an AU is somebody that I've spoken to, like I've said before, like offline about things like that. Well, online, but off broadcast about questions, deeper, diving questions. And I really do appreciate that about you, is that you're able to answer those types of questions and stuff like that. Because in order to examine your life in the way in which you act without any sort of self-reflection or examination, retrospect whatsoever, is foolish not to ask these types of questions. So if you have somebody that you can question these things to, even if you're looking to disprove or prove, it's advantageous. I wish that everybody had an AU. I appreciate mine, for better or worse. So, I'm not going and talking to some guy in a box. I'm going to go talk to you, AU. So, it is what it is. I love asking questions, and that's what Westworld does. It poses more questions than it answers, but we will have character arcs finished. We can conclude this episode with, we have a situation in which we have Dolores still very much in the game. Bernard, I would say, finally in the game, entering the game. And we have a situation in which Caleb... God, it kills me. It kills me to say. I have to put up his humanity up for grabs. I don't know what's happening right now. I have to rewatch. But overall, I'm going to say it was my least liked episode of the season, but that doesn't mean it was bad. It just means I was stressed when I watched it and tired, and I will rewatch it and do a video. Hax, give your final thoughts on it. AU, final thoughts on it. Thank you to Johnny Be Crazy. Sorry a tornado possibly killed you during the filming of this.
Oh, God, he never returned.
Yeah, he might be dead. That's just a fact. That's just a fact, people. So we hope he's good. No,
man.
He just messaged.
Yeah, unironically, though, make sure to check on him. Make sure
he just messaged me. So I wouldn't have made a joke.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not that big of a bastard.
But yeah, episode was fine. Love the transition of these drug use and the look on his face. He knew what he was doing. It was just like, like he was just wide eyed the whole time, and it was good. It was funny. The big reveal and everyone knowing their projected future. I love the dynamic of the world that they've just created and exactly what we're going, to see from here. That chaos, that world, or that, humanity's undoing, as she claimed, what that's going to be defined as.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just one of those. It's a transition episode. It was lit in every sense. So it wasn't what it was, and not everyone can be a banner, and it is what it is. So AU, what do you think?
So many great people in the chat that have been just piling on great comments and great questions. I really loved it. I really appreciate you inviting me here with Hax. I mean, I haven't been on with Hax since the last time we were on with Heidi, and that was a lot of fun. As a matter of fact, speaking of Heidi, we're going to be back on Friday doing this again. So I'm stoked. I'm just totally stoked. Justin, I can't say thank you enough for hyping me up as much as you have. I feel like a miniature god here. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, Johnny, take care. I hope you're safe. And everybody stay away from me. That's all I can say.
Oh, great show of humanity. This is the guy that does charity work. Now, I did tell him to not do as much charity work because I don't need his moral and ethic.
I didn't say anything about that.
Well, you said stay away from me. So, I said, don't let your ethical behavior be the downfall of you because I need you on the stream. So I hold all that in regard. Don't die on me, bro. So, no, absolutely. Yeah, we're going to be on, I believe Azora Hype's going to be with us. Hax is going to be with us. AU is going to be with us, and then there's one more I'm missing, right?
Vanessa?
Yeah, Vanessa Cole.
No way. Wow.
Yeah, it's like it's a banner. It's up there. So yeah, I can't wait. I'll have time to actually watch it, so it'll be a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much for joining us. You can send to my Patreon funds for Johnny's gravestone, which we will engrave with super chat. He died doing
whatever the highest super chat is.
Yeah, he died doing what he hated. Yeah, trying to get super chats. So donate to my Patreon for that. I'll totally take care of it. I'm an ethical human being. And we finally came to a conclusion on one of the greatest debates known to mankind. No, it was a fun time.
Nowhere near.
Yeah, I know, you son of a bitch. You wait till I'm not tired. We're gonna get it. We're gonna get it going. But no, always a pleasure to have you, HaxDogma. The juxtaposition is always appreciated. And Costume Co, go to her channel. She's actually a professional. That's crazy on YouTube. It's like unheard of. It's like, holy shit, somebody that works in the actual area in which they're speaking about is on YouTube. Get out of here. So yeah, no, go to her channel. And we're gonna have an absolute epic stream for Friday night, and I'm gonna be taking over Axel Foley's DVR. You heard it right, Axel Foley, for 2 weeks, for the Wednesday night cast that they do. So I'll be hosting that. So there you go.
Cool.
And then you can also see Hax playing games that I don't approve of on Twitch. Get Bannerlord, you son bitch. It's for big men. Why don't you play the big men? Why don't you play adult games?
But Valorant, baby. Valorant.
It angers me. It angers me. I love you.
I just did this amazing clip. I can't even describe it to you.
You know, you guys might think we hate each other, but I love him so much. But yeah, no, it does make me. Everything you do angers me. I'm gonna admit it a little bit.
I wish the feeling was mutual.
You son of a bitch. Oh god, such a well-spoken man, right? Yeah, the words. If only the words meant more. No, I wish you would get Bannerlord. I'm gonna send it to you. It's for big boys. So yeah, no, check it out. He has been doing his editing though on which is interesting, in something that I think that any people that are interested in content creation should take a look at, because Hax does make very, very well polished videos for every week. So take a look at that, and plus have some fun with him and his pals on Twitch. And I totally recommend it, even though I hate him a little bit. No, it's good. It truly is good.
Thank you for having me. Love doing this.
You're a son of a bitch. I got you. No, it's a lot of fun, people. And Westworld is something that can bring us all together, and we can all learn, even if we disagree. Thank you so much. My name's Justin Thomas from Top Shelf Fandom. If you want to support creativity, $3 a month makes a hell of a big deal to me. If it doesn't make a hell of a big deal to you, please pass that along. And we will have a overhaul on that Patreon going soon, hopefully with something like Hax is doing. I'm going to admit it on air. I'm going to take it right from what he's doing with the creation and show the editing process, if you're interested in behind the scenes and how frustrating it can be. It's quite brave to do, and I will honor what he's done and kind of replicate it. So AU Packmule is one of the most ethical people in the world, despite like a few things he said I don't really agree with, but it's all good. But yeah, he is the YouTube Don, the original. So get back with 30 days, AU. And we'll let you lead us out. And everybody, again, to send flowers, just go ahead and donate in the chat to Johnny. Bless him. Bless him. He's already just messaged me. So, we'll see you soon. I'll be hosting on Wednesday night, like I said, and Hax will have a video out by then, I'm sure. AU Packmule will be joining us again on Friday. We will have much better constructed arguments against each other, but just as much hate and just as much love. We will see you guys soon.